Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome. I'm Tom Picasso, Networks Manager at Seek Common Ground. Welcome to our Learning Community Talk, Arts and Education Today, Two Leaders' Perspectives. I am joined today by Jojo Carcioppolo, Executive Director and Founder at Dancing Classrooms Northeast Ohio, and with Chris Anderson, Executive Director and Founder at Open Tone Music. We're also joined today by Jenna Messina, a teaching artist from the Cleveland Playhouse's CARE program, who will be with us in our overtime session to reflect on the discussion we have this afternoon. Jojo, Chris, and Jenna's bios will be available in the chat below. They are joining us today to share their perspectives and experience in directing arts education programs that are both embedded in schools and are an essential component for young people's development. Coming from a performing arts background myself, I need no persuasion to the importance of arts education. What Jojo and Chris have and continue to do is not only teach artistic skills, but integrate through innovative curriculum design, reading comprehension, history, and so much more, all while building connections of trust, acknowledgement, and true collaboration among students and the community at large. In our session today, I will start by posing a few questions to both Jojo and Chris, and then they're going to take over. We're recording, and like all our talks, we will make today's talk available on our website by the end of the week. At the end of our discussion with Jojo and Chris, we'll head over to overtime for the second half hour for an off-the-record discussion that we invite you joining us live today to stay on and join us. Jenna Messina will lead off that discussion, and we will continue the conversation and invite all of your questions for our panelists today. So with that in mind, I'll go ahead and jump right in. Jojo and Chris, thank you so much for joining us. And I would like to turn it over to you to share more about your organizations and as artists, what drew you to this work. And I'll go ahead and send it over to you, Jojo, to start us off.
Hi, well, first, thank you for having me. I'm going to strive to do this in 90 seconds. So Dancing Classrooms, first and foremost, is a social development program. We happen to use ballroom dance as the tool because it requires two individuals to physically connect in a respectful and meaningful way, and then work together to achieve a common goal, which happens to be a dance step. So we work specifically with 5th grade and 8th grade students as part of the required academic school day curriculum, meaning they haven't chosen to be there, and they will often let us know that. And I would say, in short, I was drawn to the work because my background was dance. I feel like I grew up in a dance studio, and so it really blended my love of dance and my love of working with children into one. I think I might have gotten less than 90 seconds. Good luck, Chris.
Yeah, yeah, and Chris.
Yeah, very good. Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here. I started Open Tone Music. We focus on music education and performance, making that accessible to everybody. And the whole idea was kind of birthed out of my own personal experience as a performing artist. And I've had some incredible opportunities, both locally, nationally, internationally. As music is done, and performing arts in general just has been an incredible gift to me, an incredible experience, and wanted to make that available to other students, where I was kind of working both in the inner city, working in the suburbs, and kind of saw some changes happening, and wanted to be intentional about making the opportunities that I've had as an artist, making that available to other people.
Oh, thank you, Chris. Just launching right into our discussion today in your dialogue, as artists and educators, keeping in mind the world we're living in right now, just what keeps you both up at night, and what are some bright spots you would like for us to know about you and your work? And whoever's ready to go.
So I like that question, because it's a lot of layers to that. But I'll say this. So a lot of things that I'm thinking about, and this are things that apply to any organization, regardless of what size they are. There's just a lot of pieces to the puzzle, to use that phrase. There's a lot of things going on that you have to be aware of, that each organization, whether you're large or small, is responsible for. As a smaller organization, it would seem to me that I have to be kind of keep an eye on pretty much everything. In terms of programming, we're looking at curriculum, locations, relationships, programming partners, and then administration wise, everything from bookkeeping to writing grants to insurance, just all of those things that you kind of have to be involved in, so to speak, at when you have a small organization like Open Tone Music. But one of the things, and I think this is kind of the educator in me, one of the things that I think is kind of at the root of that is how do I make this situation better? Like where we are now as Open Tone, where I am as an artist, how do I just constantly trying to figure out how to improve this? And some areas of improvement are more challenging than others, but I will say for myself, I've realized that, and this I would say this applies to a lot of different, can be applicable to other leaders, whether you're leading an organization or leading a specific program or maybe a facilities manager or something like that. But I've found that it's beneficial to me to have some type of self-improvement plan at the core of that question of, how do we make Open Tone better? Like part of it is, how do I make Chris Anderson better? And that's a tough thing because it's hard to be, we can have these plans, but it's hard to be consistent. And for as leaders, sometimes we have to just give ourselves grace, I think, and not beat ourselves up. You recognize something and you just fix it and learn from it and just move on. But my brain is constantly going. So, that type of thing is something that keeps me up. But fortunately for me, I have a very good team that I surround myself. I try to be around people that are smarter than me or can do things that I'm not strong at or can't do well. So, I have a good education team that's put together some great curriculum for our Amistad program. Our performance program, that initiative, the Rubber City Jazz and Blues Festival, is an awesome team that works on putting that together. So,
yeah, and I want to talk about those as well, because I think both Project Amistad and Rubber City Festival, which we got to see some of, are
right.
incredible programs, and I want a sticky note for all of us how we stay inspired and focused on the work. And Jojo, I'd like to hear a little bit too for you, what's keeping you up at night, and maybe if anything of what Chris has spoken about is resonating with you as well as a leader.
Yes, it all resonates with me. I would say yes. And if I can add to the sticky note, my follow-up question to you, Chris, was going to be what have you found to be successful to make Chris Anderson better? Because insert my name or probably anyone's name, would love to hear what you found to be most helpful. So I agree with all of that and experience all those same things. And I think that I would add to that I think a bright spot is that school districts, I feel like, are dedicating more resources financially and otherwise to arts education. It seems like it has more of a focus today than it did 15 years ago. I would say the challenge with that also keeps me up at night, that, the past 2 years take into account with this, is that I feel like the reality is that everyday classroom teachers, principals, it's a triage scenario. And so while they believe in arts education, it just gets kind of pushed to the back burner, or there's so much going on that it's hard for whoever needs to have the attention to find the time and space to do the things that need to happen to bring a program like ours in. And so the challenge, I would say, that I feel like keeps me up at night is figuring out how I'll say, reinvent our messaging, or how we rise above the noise that is just all that's happening on a daily basis, to actually have our message be heard so we can get into the schools and serve. Because it's not always a lack of there being a desire or the resources. Time is the most limited of them. That's the other challenge. But it's just a matter of getting the information in front of the right person at the right time, and trying to be creative and continually bring that into the forefront in new and creative ways. I don't know if you find that with you, Chris, as well, where there's a
Yes,
desire, but there's just so much going on.
right, exactly. Yeah, there's a lot of things that can distract from that mission of getting these arts experiences in front of people.
Yes. And so it's a matter of trying to feel like how to communicate the value add that exists and how it's enriching the educational experience, and supporting all the things, the learning loss that we're trying to overcome from the past 2 years.
Yeah, and some of that is challenging because it like depends on the person. Like sometimes conversation can help overcome that hurdle, and sometimes you have to like assemble more data.
Yes.
Which I mean, it's not like we have to go back to the drawing board. It's like, okay, these are the studies that show, which I mean, this has been going on but sometimes for some audiences that's necessary to understand the value in what we're talking about.
Well, the second part of that question, where are the bright spots for you both though as well? The challenge of, advocating for the programming, and I think moving through that, what I think, and I've heard from both of you in different ways, talk about the stigma of arts, right? It's an extra, not integrated. And I think both of you have integrated so well. What have been some bright spots over the last 2 years as well that you feel like have really motored your programs forward?
I know just on the human side of things, I'm still getting responses from alumni.
Oh, cool.
Like people that have been in the program. It's like I'm very thankful that I got to spend time in your program. I got to work with you as an educator, and these responses, this feedback comes to me. It goes to other educators that in our organization that share it with me. So that in itself is like very encouraging. That just have to keep plugging away.
Nice.
Yes, and I would also say that it's I think it's seeing the program be brought to life and see the impact on the students, which is why we do what we do. And I think specific to the past 2 years, to be able to see the creativity at the forefront of things, that's really guided how we pivoted and adapted, as we all had to do countless times. And I feel like there were, looking back on it, I can now see that there were times where there was so much unknown, even at the school level or at the student level on a day-to-day basis. They didn't know how things were going to happen, or as things had to evolve to accommodate all the realities that were in front of us. And little did we know that we were what was consistent. And because we were able to have that figured out, we provided that consistency. And so that while in the middle of it, it felt like just complete chaos. It's very neat to see that there was really something fully fleshed out taking place.
It's in that final product.
Can you tell us more? Can you both tell us more about that? I mean, we're talking about, Jojo, you used the vocabulary of dance, Chris, music. Like, what, I think a better way of putting it, what effect have you seen it have on your students over the last 2 years, going deeper to that human side of it? Because again, there's the logistics of getting programmed in and integrated, getting buy-in, but then there's the classroom buy-in, there's the student buy-in right now. And we hear over and over the importance of mental health services and what has been interrupted with the pandemic. What have you seen just really click? What have you seen really emerge with students? Like, this is what dance and music can do.
You actually took my question. I was going to ask Jojo something similar.
Yeah, please. Go ahead.
Yeah, I love it.
Go for it.
But yeah, I definitely wanted to hear from Jojo about that. But I know that one of the things that I've noticed is that's encouraging, and it's exciting to watch it when a student doesn't believe that they can do something, and then the educators kind of break it down for them in a simple way, digestible way, And over time, that student is able to achieve what they thought they couldn't do. And they realize, like, to see in their minds, like they realize that. And then you get to see that behavior change. And I think part of that is, on some level, I think part of it has to do with allowing that individual to uncover their identity. It's kind of like what's in that seed. You put that seed in the right environment, it's going to grow to its fullest in whatever it is. And just seeing these students do that, I think that's kind of like at the, not getting too far off here, but I think that's kind of like at the root of what we do, both dance, music, theater, that at the root of that artistic expression, as you're dealing with the individual's identity and allowing them to reveal what that is from the inside out, so to speak.
Yes, and I think to add to that, I think there's two important components that are required in both of our art forms and all of them. And that's one is present, not only obviously physically, you showed up, but we always say that's the first step, and how many schools are trying to improve attendance. So programs like ours get students in the door. But then when I say be present, I mean to actually be connected with your partner and thinking about something that is the step and the choreography, and not stepping on toes, to put it in students' words, or in your case, listening to the music or playing the music or reading the music. You have to be present. You can't be thinking about what's happening at lunch or what just happened at recess or whatever it might be. And so I think that in a world that is often so distracted and has notifications, and always hear educators talking about students always having technology in their hands, and for all the wonderful things it brings, it also, as we all know, has torn apart human connection. And so to actually have to be present mentally in the actual moment, in our case, connecting with another human being, or even the sense of music, working together as an ensemble, that is what the arts require to give it your full attention. And I think the other important thing is that we always talk about, there's a length of time that it's continuing to show up and continuing to apply yourself, and it's that effort over time that equals the end result. And so again, in a microwave society of instant gratification and prime delivery, that's something that's often forgotten, and that's a skill to continue to show up. And so I think that's what I hear you saying, Chris, as well, of continuing to apply yourself and learn something that is new. In our case, continuing to show up and apply yourself to something you didn't select to do, and never thought you would be able to dance the tango. And I think that translates into, down the road, someone's willingness to take a chance at something that's new and different to them, and to take a risk, maybe calculated, but to apply themselves and trust that they can figure it out or go on the journey.
Yeah, that's great. I'm glad you shared that. Talking about the, part of, and what you were just saying is the whole idea of self, or of discipline, because it's a cumulative thing. Like I often tell students that the same discipline that's required to be able to improvise over a blues is the same discipline if you want to be a CEO of a bank or something.
Yes, and I think it even speaks to, like, go full circle here, if I'm allowed to, Tom, go back to our sticky note of the discipline of personal development. So like you mentioned that's something that helps you with open tone, and I would love to hear if you have something that's a favorite that you continue to go back to, but that takes discipline to do that.
Right. Yeah. And it's one of those things that if you get off track, so to speak, then just realize it and just get back on. Like this is a process. Life is a process for all of us. I mean, it doesn't have to, sometimes you run into these adverse situations and things kind of get you off focus, and once you become aware of that, then just refocus. That sounds easy, doesn't it? But one of the things that I
easy
like
doesn't mean simple.
Yeah.
Or simple doesn't mean easy, right?
Simple doesn't mean easy.
Yeah.
I guess it could be looked at as a couple ways. For me personally, I try to do things that I can get excited about. So I try to, I'm a musician myself, so I try to practice my instrument on a daily basis. That's kind of my lesson plan for my teaching. And then I try to just gain new information every day, whether I'm reading an article or reading a book, just something new some new information I'm gathering about something that I might be interested in.
Can I just jump in? What has been something lately that has sparked that for you?
Like outside of just practicing music.
For both, and I would put it to both of you. What is that piece that's like kept you inspired? That's really like, has it been a recent piece of music? Has it been like, what is that one thing? And can you tell us what your main instrument is?
Trombone. Yeah, I'm a trombonist. A lot of jazz music. I've kind of revisited some things that some teachers and some famous people have shared with me over the years, and just kind of dug deeper into that, just peeling back more layers. Music is one of those things because of its connection to human emotions, which is just like this infinite spectrum. Music just has an infinite number of layers to it. I mean, you can't, you'll be more than a lifetime trying to listen to all the beautiful music and try to understand what music is. So just getting deeper into some things that I'm familiar with or haven't spent a lot of time on the musical side. But then, again, reading, I find things like quantum physics and metaphysics very interesting. So I like read articles on that, and I'm halfway through this book now on ancient African cosmology. Like those types of things are interesting to me. But at the same time, because everybody's different, you might be a person where things don't necessarily, it's kind of hard finding what excites you. So I would say maybe just find something that's the least boring. And, you know what I mean? Like just whatever's least boring out of the things that don't get you excited, maybe just try to dig a little deeper into that.
Yeah, Jojo, what's that for you right now, Jojo?
So, I mean, I would say it's not quantum physics, I can tell you that. But kudos to you, Chris. I would say I will acknowledge I am a pretty big dork and very, very type A. And so I find a great deal of comfort in routine and being very disciplined in things, and kind of have a bookend to my day that makes me feel like I can function as a human being. So I think that that's what helps keep me grounded and mentally, to be able to then focus on the things that I need to. I would say I agree with the reading. That's something that over the past couple of years I've had to make. Again, going back to the noise, I am very much human and can get sucked into scrolling on social media. And so I've had to be very, very mindful to put some adult parameters on that and be a parent to myself. And so that I don't get distracted and can actually focus on some things. And just to Chris's point, my mind is always going. And so that can be to my detriment. And so that really helps to focus it. And then as cliche as it sounds, it really is helpful for me to get into a school. And so when I have the opportunity to be of support to our teaching artists and to go into the school, it is very helpful. To, again, Chris's point, it also is hard when you're wearing a lot of different hats. It can't happen all the time, but when it does happen, it is a very helpful thing to just refocus, amongst the frustrations that occur, to remind why we're doing these things.
Yeah, it's inspiring, isn't it?
Yes.
Getting back. Yeah.
Yeah. Or it's like, oh, that's why. Yes.
Right.
Yes. This is why I'm making all those phone calls. And this is why I'm writing that proposal. And this is why, yes, we need more of this. And so, we always joke that there's a life cycle of our residencies. And so we start out each 10 weeks and everyone's happy and excited. And then you have those instances in the middle where you're like, oh, it's a really challenging situation for one reason or the other. So you feel like you're slogging through it to support each other, to serve the students. And then we have that culminating event at the end where the students, showcase all that they've accomplished. And it's like, oh, and that takes you into the next one. And you just go through the cycle again.
Well, first off, I would love to hear more about the culminating events as well. And there's so much more for us to talk about. But as we get to the end of our first part of our conversation this afternoon, I would like to ask you both our Proustian question we ask everyone. Who has been someone who has influenced you and why? And maybe I'll start with you, Chris.
So I'll take it back to my formative years. I remember, and he's still around, Jeff Patty, if anybody knows him. He came from a musical family. That was my teacher in sixth or seventh grade, I think it was. But I remember, and I've had a lot of influences, just to be clear. Like we can be here for the next 5 hours, me talking about all of the people that have influenced me. But I remember being in school, and he was a trumpet player who was our band teacher, and he would play for us sometimes in trumpet. And I remember the trombone section was having like some trouble with one of the parts, and we just weren't playing it quite right. And I remember him going to get a trombone, and he played the part perfectly. Now, as an adult, many people might think, oh, he's of course he's a music teacher, of course he can do that. But that wasn't his main instrument, and that really struck me. It was like, this dude just pretty much dogged all of us in this on our respective instrument. That wasn't even his. So that was kind of a kick in the butt to me to start me down my journey of practicing, like actually getting that discipline. And it's like, okay, this is something that you have to focus on if you want to be good at it. So, pretty much no turning back after that.
So that means we should be able to hand you an instrument other than the trombone, and you would wow us. No pressure next time I see you. I would like Chris, I'm fortunate to say that there's lots of people that I could mention, but I think I would have to say in the context of this conversation, I have to acknowledge Pierre Dulaine, who is the founder of Dancing Classrooms. I had the opportunity to work under him when I was a teaching artist in New York City with the organization. And it's because of him and his work that he did that, of course, is why I sit here today and have had the opportunity to do what we've done for the past 15 years and hopefully many more.
Well, I hope all of those teachers' ears are ringing today. As we finish our first half hour, I just want to thank you, Jojo and Chris, for joining us for this lively discussion. And we're going to continue it in overtime for those of you joining us live, where Jenna Messina from the Cleveland Playhouse will be our lead discussant to reflect on the conversation this afternoon and to continue the discussion. So we look forward to having that. And a quick note for next week, we'll be back at the same time, same place, Tuesday, November 1st at 1:00 p.m. I will be talking with Nicole Kennedy from Hopewell Health Centers and Mary Macias from Footpath Foundation, where I will speak with them about nature-based therapy and the movement around that, which should be very cool. You can register for that chat below. It's called A Walk in the Woods. We're really excited about it. But again, thank you so much, Jojo and Chris, for joining us this afternoon. And thank all of you who are watching the recording today. You can check out all of our talks on our Seek Common Ground YouTube channel, and we look forward to bringing you many more. All right, thank you so much and have a wonderful day, and we'll see you in overtime.
Thank you, folks.